Alrighty, my name is Alina Perry, and for my presentation, I'm going to focus on the ethics of paywalls and address the question, is it ethical to begin with to require a payment to access news? So just to outline my presentation, I'm going to start by introducing the topic of paywalls, and then I'm going to go over some alternatives to having a paywall because news needs to be funded somehow, and if not through a paywall, through subscriptions, then how? Let's see. And then I'm going to go over some ethical theories that I feel are relevant in this situation. I'm going to consider them, and then I'm going to apply them to this context. So first, to introduce, what is a paywall? A paywall is a feature of many, many online publications. In fact, we see here 69% of publications with online content include a paywall. A paywall is a pop-up that restricts and obstructs reading beyond a certain point. And beyond that point, it requires a subscription to the publication in question. So over here, we have a picture of what a paywall looks like. I'm sure we're all so familiar with the scene. We all know the feeling all too well. You're surfing the web, you're scrolling through, you see a headline and you're like, that is so interesting. I think that will answer all my questions perfectly. I can't wait to read it. In this case, Tampa Bay Buccaneers win the 2021 Super Bowl. You click it, so excited to find out more on that topic, and boom, for $4.99 a month, you can learn about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their victory at the Super Bowl, not for free. We all hate that, I think. It's not a friendly sight. But it allows publications to monetize their content that otherwise would be free. So I'm going to go over some different types of paywalls. So first, there's the hard paywall, like we saw in that last slide. It just says you need a subscription to read anything on this site. Then there's the metered paywall, in which readers are allotted a number of free articles, but then once they pass that number of free articles, they need a subscription to read further. The New York Times uses this model, and yeah, a few other financial institutions do too, that I can think of off the top. I think the Financial Times does it. And then there's premium services. That a lot of publications choose this route. They'll have some content that they publish for free, sometimes usually with advertising involved as well, and then other content that requires a subscription. Typically, maybe, for example, they'll say like, all right, our news and feature section is free to the public, but our sports, government, and opinion sections require a subscription. These are our premium services, so to speak. And then there's another type of paywall that a lot of publications will use, where they will actually lift their paywall in certain extenuating circumstances. So, for example, during COVID, a lot of publications decided that, this was kind of a national emergency, more or less. So, who are we to be profiting off of informing the public about this unprecedented, scary time that we were all living in, that we all made it through, thank goodness. Anyway, so in that situation, a lot of publications decided to lift their paywall and demonetize COVID content. Another example locally is the Spokesman Review decided to lift their paywall in all materials regarding the Moscow murders of the 4U of I students. So that again was a very scary time for us in the community. It still is, actually. And yeah, the spokesman decided that they didn't need to monetize that material either. And this brings us to our ethical dilemma. It is restricting access to information based on wealth. So those who have an expendable income versus those who don't, to spend on a subscription to any publication. And this creates a clear divide over who is informed and the quality of the information that they received. And then on the other hand, this leads us to the question of, if the press isn't funded by readers, who is it funded by? And we're going to explore those alternatives later in the presentation. But we'll see also that this opens up a lot of opportunity for bias and influence over channels of communication. The key players in the situation are, of course, the moral agent, who is the individual publication in question, whichever one we're looking at. And then the stakeholders are, of course, the readers, the public at large, people who read the content. Can they access it or not? The staff of the publication, of course. So, like, if I'm a writer, for example, for publication, it matters to me if that is behind a paywall or not. I want to know, how accessible my content is. And then, of course, the subjects of the stories as well. How public is their involvement in the story. And then additionally, advertisers in the government. I've got some asterisks there. Those we will explore later as we talk about the alternatives.